This place has everything from the Jersey Devil to witches to hangings to ghostly encounters.
Ghostly, yeah, I was worried that you were going to leave out the witch part in the opening. I was like, where's he going with this, man? The witches. It centers around the witches.
It does, but it has such great ties to the New Jersey Devil.
Yeah, it all started with a woman who turned her faith away from God and was killed by the Jersey Devil.
She summoned the Jersey Devil, and he turned and killed her.
Which is kind of weird because there's a lot of witchcraft, devils associated with this place. And when we were here, it wasn't that big. I thought from reading about it, different accounts of people, their stories, like this was in the middle of the woods. But if you look at it, it's just woods. That's a big hill that's surrounded by a cemetery and then houses.
I mean, it didn't always used to be that way. It was originally formed as 100 acres of property. And when we went there, I was expecting a little bit more eerie, a little bit more desolate, that you couldn't see anything. But from the altar itself, you could see the church where...
You could see the church from the altar.
Yeah.
This altar is known as the Holy, Holy, Holy. That's what's inscribed on this altar at the top of the hill.
It's 4 foot by 8 foot long, and it's set up perfectly for a sacrificial table.
It is, and that's what supposedly happened. The witches were brought here, and they said there's gallows that you could still see to this day.
And we scoured that whole woods and didn't see any remnants of any gallows. I mean, there was a lot of leaves on the ground, but I didn't see anything.
Yeah, I didn't see anything. Maybe there was like a telephone pole that could have been part of the gallows back in the day, but I don't know. Maybe they needed some type of cell service up there, but there was nothing besides this altar. And it is kind of weird, man. Just thinking about, they put this altar, whoever did back in the day, on top of this hill. Were they sacrificing something to the Jersey Devil? Is there something to this?
It does make sense. If you were to hide something or wanted to hide something, you put an altar in the middle of the woods. And why would the slab on top of that altar be so big, only to sacrifice and to kill people? Like, I could see them where they could chain up people or the Jersey Devil or anything and sacrifice them, especially in the middle of the woods. And if you think about the time period that they were doing this, there was no houses around, or fairly few of them. It would be a great place to do it.
Yeah, and they say, legend has it, if you put your ear to the top of the altar, you could hear scratching, you could hear noises, you could hear chains rattling. I didn't hear anything. Did you hear anything?
No.
Another thing too, like if they were really sacrificing witches, which I went back into the public record, I didn't see anything like that.
No, I mean, the only legend, like we said, is the gravesite that the woman turned her faith away from God, summoned the Jersey Devil, he killed her, and her grave is still there. It does make you wonder what these people were thinking way back when.
They were thinking like, all right, God is the ultimate. And they were saying, all right, if you're a witch, you're a devil, you're practicing any type of thing, we're going to bring you to this altar and sacrifice you.
It almost reminds me of the Salem witch trials, to be honest with you. Like, they had the gallows, they had the witches, like we mentioned before, the pump house that is down a trail. If you're looking at the altar to the left, not that far away. Another legend has it that they would throw the witches before the gallows were in operation down this well in this pump house.
Really odd to me that they did capture the Jersey Devil and throw him into the well, and then also throw him into the altar, because the altar is supposedly a portal to hell, as well as the witch's well. And if you right next to the witch's well, which it is pretty eerie, this old pump house.
It is.
Like, and it's all gated off. There's cameras everywhere.
We tried to get in, we couldn't.
If they really were throwing witches down in this altar or this well, which they're right next to each other, and I didn't expect that to be the case, right next to each other, wouldn't there be more legends? Wouldn't there be more like stories and newspapers and the community? And one of the weird things that I thought when we were hiking, there was a bunch of people walking their dogs.
There was.
But then all of a sudden, a lady came out of nowhere.
She really did come out of nowhere. She was looking around the altar, and we stopped and asked her a couple questions. She told us the legend that we heard.
Yeah, the legend of the witches being hung at the gallows there. From the accounts that were written through Weird New Jersey, through other publications, they said like the gallows were right next to this altar. Mm-hmm. But then she said, no, they're down closer to the cemetery.
We did walk down there, and we looked around the whole area where the gallows could be, like a flat area, but we didn't see anything.
It would be cool to step back in time and really look at this place when it was first built, to see what it looked like. Because when we were up there today, I didn't really get a good sense of like what it was back in the day.
A Sleepy Hollow-esque type deal, where like the cemetery was like small. there's a lot of trees, but like some pathways, and then like the gallows where like people are carrying torches and everything to like hang these witches
Up this mount.
Yeah, and kill the devil.
Yeah, and I want to know one of the story. Like, how do they kill the Jersey Devil? How do they capture the Jersey Devil and throw him into this altar or the well?
Yeah, you don't really know. None of the legends, none of the stories, none of the publications even have like how they caught him. But like again, I think like they chained him up somehow, and that's why you hear the chains rattling inside the altar.
And inside the well, that's what they say too. Like if you put your ear to the pump house, one of the witches like banging, scraping against like the door, and then you could hear her like scream.
Well, another legend is that if you knock on the pump house door 3 times, she'll knock back. It's almost like a type of Candyman or Bloody Mary-esque type of ritual that people do.
Yeah, and there's no way to get behind this fence. They had barbed wire on it, and they have cameras everywhere because it is probably not a working pump house anymore, but the water tower's right there. So I'm sure the town wants to protect that, and they don't want like crazy kids like us in there.
Yeah, they really don't.
But if you fast forward into history, in 1935, the Protestant Church of Mount Holly built this altar supposedly. So
well, they built it on top of where the other altar of where they killed the Jersey Devil
supposedly, and they used to have Easter sunrise service there,
which they still do, according to the lady that we spoke to on the mount, that they still hold an Easter service up there every year.
Do you believe this is haunted? Do you believe the Jersey Devil or any witches are buried there in the well or on the holy altar?
I think they definitely killed people there. I think they sacrificed people there. I think they hung people there. There's not enough to say that the Jersey Devil is underneath the slab of the holy altar.
So you're giving it a thumbs down.
I'm giving the thumbs down to the Jersey Devil, but a thumbs up to killing people there.
Yeah, this place is, I thought it was going to be a little bit more eerie, more in the woods, tucked away, and we were going to have a hard time finding it, but that wasn't the case. I kind of agree with you. I don't know how they killed the Jersey Devil. I don't think townsfolk back in the 1600s or even in the 1930s could do that. I don't think anything is associated with the Jersey Devil there. Witches, on the other hand, I don't know.
They exist.
Yeah, and this woman supposedly is buried there. So we'll have to find her grave one time next time we're there.
Up next is the Devil's Tree.
That's a pretty scary place. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure to hit the bell for notifications and follow along. I hope you're enjoying these videos. And until next time,
stay spooky.
Do you believe in witches?
No.
Do you believe in the Jersey Devil?
I like the Jersey Devils.
I like the Jersey Devils.
I like the Jersey Devils.
Get that thing out of here, because this is what you do. No, we don't need that in the middle. Like that when you do the show. The podcast is cool, but the weekday weirds, no way.
Right?
I mean, this is already fucking like 12 minutes.